So hopefully most of you have had the opportunity to read part one of the Kairos II document. And in it, you will have read about the numerous tactics used by the Israeli regime against Palestinians to oppress, attack, and fragment them, whether they reside in Gaza, the West Bank, Jerusalem, or in Israel itself. At the end of paragraph 16, the authors of the Kairos document write that significant as these tactics are, they remain symptoms of the larger reality, which must remain the central focus of our attention, the system of political and military domination imposed by Israel as an occupying entity over the Palestinian people. So what we're going to do now is Kathleen and Beth are going to read out the two introductory paragraphs of the Kairos II document. So Kathleen first.
We, the Palestinian Christian Ecumenical Initiative, issued the Kairos Palestine document in 2009, a word of faith, hope, and love from the heart of Palestinian suffering. The heads of churches in Jerusalem heard this cry, welcomed it, and offered their support. Likewise, the document resonated widely, both locally and internationally. Then, as now, we gathered, women and men, clergy and laity, from across the different church families in Palestine. After prayer and reflection on the suffering of our people under occupation, we released that cry of hope in the absence of hope, affirming our faith in God and our love for our homeland, convinced that our struggle is ultimately about human life and dignity.
We live now in a time of genocide, ethnic cleansing, and forced displacement unfolding before the eyes of the world. This moment, a moment of truth, demands from us a new stand unlike any before it. It is both a decisive moment and a moment of truth. Today, we renew our stand for truth and our commitment to fundamental religious, theological, and moral principles. We look at our reality and take a renewed stand, responding to the voice of the Holy Spirit deep within us, listening to the call of faith in this time of genocide. We renew our message of faith, hope, and love, offering a faith-inspired vision for the time after genocide.
So, in light of changed circumstances over the last 16 years, since the first Kairos call in 2009, the Kairos Initiative has felt it necessary to issue a second Kairos document. Writers of the study guide themselves pointed to three phrases, which somebody actually did mention in the chat that they sort of wanted us to bring out, really. And they were genocide, ethnic cleansing, and settler colonialism.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that, colonialism. So Linda, Gerald, and John are going to read the definitions of those three things, which are descriptive of the Palestinians' experience.
So genocide, according to the UN, genocide means any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group by killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. The key components are to distinguish genocide from other crimes against humanity. Legal experts look for two specific elements: the mental element, special dolus, the intent to destroy. This is the hardest part to prove legally, as it requires evidence that the perpetrators specifically targeted a group for annihilation, and the physical elements, the 5 specific acts listed above.
Settler colonialism. Unlike traditional colonialism, which primarily seeks to extract resources and labour from indigenous populations while maintaining colonial rule from abroad, settler colonialism aims to permanently occupy indigenous lands and replace indigenous populations with its new settler society. Settler colonial projects, as seen in North America and Palestine-Israel, are characterized by the ongoing displacement of indigenous peoples, appropriation of land rather than just resources, and establishment of new political legal structures that normalize their sovereignty while erasing indigenous presence and claims to the land. That's from John and Samuel Mornia's Cross and the Olive Tree.
Is ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing is designated today as a crime against humanity, with a special tribunal set up in The Hague to prosecute the crimes. The term ethnic cleansing is related to genocide and has been defined by a UN Commission of Experts as a purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographic areas. Forcible transfer of people is strictly prohibited under Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention and is recognized as a grave breach that can be prosecuted as an international crime. In his 2006 book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, Israeli historian Ilan Pappé illustrates the systematic planning that laid the groundwork for the expulsion of more than 750,000 Palestinians from what became Israel in 1948. Pappé elaborates on the Village Files project, 1940 to 47, involving the methodical compilation of maps and intelligence for all Arab villages, and the development of military plans that culminated in Plan Dalet and the 1948 war. Pappé makes the case for a paradigm change, ethnic cleansing to replace the paradigm of war in the public debate on 1948.
So those, well, you can find those definitions or a slightly different version of them if you've downloaded the Kairos II study guide, and they're on page 52, and there's a lot of other terms that are defined as well there. So in light, and this is going to be quite hard. I mean, I think this is quite a hard week because we're having to focus on, well, all the bad bit. Well, it is all bad, but we're having to focus on it this week. Whereas, because we need to know what we're looking at before we need to know how to act, which will be in future weeks. But in light of what we have just heard, imagine if you were living in those conditions, how would you pray to God? And I know that's going to be hard to imagine. And we did feel that this was something for personal reflection. So we're not going to actually ask for any sharing for this. I'm just going to give you 4 minutes just to have a think yourself about how you might pray in these circumstances.
Welcome you all again. I'm very much looking forward to sharing this session with you. And today, really, we're going to go on to look at, up to now, we've been looking at issues of the kind of situation the Palestinians are in, how they are, the pressures that are on them to survive as a people, really. I think we would agree with that. But today, I think we're going to be looking at how the Palestinians are responding to that and how we can support them. And obviously that's a really important thing. And it's something I'm particularly interested in as Quakers, I'm sure you know that Quakers are very committed to peace and non-violence. So this is an area of work that really speaks to me in my heart, having been out in Ramallah and seeing the situation there then. That was 2005, and of course now it's a lot, a lot worse. So I think we're in for a very inspiring session today. I'm looking forward to it. The format for the first part of this, the next 20 minutes or so, is that we have some three people who are going to be reading bits from the Kairos document. I'm hoping many of you have actually read it. It was written by Palestinians, so it very much speaks their truth as they see it. So they will be reading some bits from it and also adding a few comments. And after that, each time we'll have a chance, or you'll have a chance to comment on it, make your any comments either in the chat or in the open session, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the first three are really focusing on all Palestinians. I'm going to invite Susan to start. She's talking about what kind of society are the writers of the Kairos document seeking to create.
Thinking about this, I was thinking the original Kairos Palestine document was called A Moment of Truth. And we all remember that it is often quoted adage, one of the first casualties of war is truth. And this is what I think we're very much witnesses. And I go back to thinking about this society by looking at the verses from the Psalm that starts the whole document. And in particularly, they're looking for a land together with all the inhabitants of the earth, in true peace and reconciliation, founded upon justice and equality for all God's creation, where mercy and truth meet, and righteousness and peace kiss each other. And my sort of reflection on that was that I went to Gaza after the destruction during Operation Cast Lead in December to January 2008-9. And then I saw with my own eyes the horrendous destruction of Jabalia, particularly, and when more than 46,000 homes and were destroyed, and over 100,000 people were made homeless, schools and factories destroyed. And the reality of that was horrendous enough. But then when we look at what has happened more recently, it is quite shocking. But each time when I have visited, the thing we were asked to do is to return and speak and be faithful truth tellers. So that's how I see it. It's a community based on truth and justice. Thank you. So
the next one which is Linda, I think, is going to look at how they're proposing to realise their vision.
So in the 2.4, they talk about a creative resistance, a firm and costly stand against ongoing injustice. So we look at creative resistance within Palestine. And for many people who know about Palestinians, people are very well educated. They take education very seriously. And the use of creativity. So when I was fortunate enough to go on a Sabeel program, a delegation, we visited Dar al-Khalima University, which is run by Dr. Mitri Raheb, a very great theologian. And he spoke to us about the creativity, the use of art, the use of all different methods, film, storytelling, in how to not only record Palestinian culture, but also be able to promote it. We know the power of films. And now, again, we're seeing more and more Palestinian films not only just hit our screens, but also reach a massive audience. So there's many different organisations do a lot of work with young people, even from clowning to doing film to doing storytelling. They have Samud story houses and libraries that run storytelling for children. We went to one in Ramallah, and they're very powerful and important in giving the Palestinians a voice, which we've seen them having lost across the world. So one of the phrases, existence is resistance. And that's part of that creativity, using ways to not only to use their solidity of the past and maintain their culture and have a voice of what's happening.
The third question here, which is what is costly steadfastness? And John's introduced that.
Thank you. It seems to me that costly steadfastness is something that's better described rather than defined. And I thought a good example of costly steadfastness is the Nassau family with the Ten Nations. And I'm sure that many who are on this call will be familiar with the Ten Nations. But for those who aren't, just to say a word or two about it, the Nassau family are a Christian family living in Bethlehem, whose farm, known as the Ten Nations, is on a hilltop, totally surrounded by settlements. And their witness stems from their determination to remain on that last of the hilltops in Palestinian occupation, or Palestinian ownership, rather, is a better word to use. They have all of the papers for the deeds for the land, but they have been in court since 1993. It's cost an absolute fortune in legal fees. The family have been attacked. The farm has been subject to arson attacks. They have demolition orders on all of the buildings. They're not allowed to have mains electricity. They're not allowed to have running water, and yet they're running a farm. And they have used various strategies to be able to keep farming and indeed develop the farm, including using international volunteers in order to have a protective presence on the farm. On the farm, as you go into it, and in fact, as you walk around it, there are a number of statements which help to clarify their commitment and their commitment to costly steadfastness. The very famous one is, as you go into the farm, it says, "We refuse to be enemies." But a second one, which I have felt I've gained a lot from and reflected upon, is a statement that they have on one of their dining room tables, which is, "We can only be human together." So I think that is an example of costly steadfastness, which exemplifies its meaning. It's being there, it's staying, despite the fact that that costs. It costs in financial terms, certainly, but it costs far, far more in the demands it makes upon you. And the Nassau family are a superb example of this.
Okay, right. We're now going to move on to the whole concept of Samud, which is a very interesting concept. And we'll start off with a video.
Understanding Samud. Samud is an Arabic term for steadfastness and perseverance. It took on a political tone in the 1960s. Human rights lawyer Raj Shahaya identifies it as a third way that rejects the false choice of exile or submission to the Israelis, or hatred and violent resistance to them. Samud is a mentality lived out in everyday life. Literary scholar Edward Said observed that it is a way of turning presence into small-scale obduracy, a tactic suitable for a time when there is no clear way forward. Palestinian theologians say the presence of the Holy Spirit sustains them in times of colonial violence, but it also points them to the ultimate Samid, Arabic for the one with Samud, who is Christ and who identifies with them.
Okay, thank you, John. And now we're going to hear from Omar, the director of Sabeel in Jerusalem.
That people under 20 who don't dream of changing the world have lost their hearts, while those over 40 who still try to change the world have lost their minds. The same tension applies to Sumud, To remain steadfast, to insist on staying rooted, can seem naive, almost beautifully so. And those who continue to resist empire and injustice may be called foolish. Yet beyond the poetry of sumud and resistance on the ground, what we are really speaking about is faithfulness to our values, refusing to compromise, even in the face of overwhelming imbalance of power. Do not lose your heart on the journey, even when it feels like the whole world is against you. Always remain steadfast, first and foremost to your values. Thank you.
We're having a short session on the role of Palestinian Christians today, and I'll ask Susan first of all to read this bit.
Section 211. This is what we say to our young men and women. You are the living church. You are the treasure of hope. The future is born from your steadfastness and your faith. We believe in you. We see your anger, your sorrow, your fear. We also see your strength. We know that our story has not ended, that our injustice persists. We do not call you to naive optimism, but to hope that is rooted in action. Hope is not surrender. Hope is a living act of resistance, steadfastly refusing occupation. Steadfastly refusing the reality of death imposed on us, confronting and resisting every form of injustice and occupation. Jesus Christ walked with the poor and the weak, stood beside the oppressed, and never abandoned love or compromised truth and justice. For the sake of the salvation of humanity, he accepted the cross. His resurrection was victory over death and injustice, a sign of hope rooted in faith. That is the hope that sustains us today.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And we've got another bit, 212 from Linda. Linda's going to read the next bit.
I say to you also, you are not alone. There are those who stand with you in Palestine and around the world. Even if silence is imposed now, the day will come when your voices will be heard. Your voices matter. Express yourselves, write, sing, create, organize. Resist through your humanity in a world that seeks to strip it from you. Dare to love, to dream, and to shape a free and radiant future. We salute your initiatives and your activities in church, in national and civic engagement, in scouting, youth, sports, culture, art, politics, and human rights, all marked by openness to society, by the spirit of volunteerism, and by faith and hope, free of sectarianism. We draw inspiration from your steadfastness and your love. We see in you the promise of a better future.